Thank you, everybody. This this is our monthly Sherman Oaks Homeowner Association meeting. Thank you very much for logging on. We have a lot of participants tonight, agenda. So we're going to kind of blow through our a little bit quickly, a little faster than we normally do, only because Mr. Caruso does have a prior commitment. And so we've got him till about 8:15 tonight. And so we're going to go ahead and go through it. And Lex, can you put your mute on? Lex, there you go. Thank you. All right. Lex is with Mr. Caruso's office. So we're going to start off with our board of directors just introducing themselves. Jules, Tom, and then John. You want to introduce yourselves? Unmute yourself. Say hello.
Hello, Jules Fear, Community Outreach.
Hello, Tom Glick, Homelessness Committee.
Hi, I'm John Eisen, Treasurer of the Association.
Okay, Maria, Marshall, Nancy, and then Jay.
Hi, Maria Calban. I'm the chair of the Legislative Committee and chair of United Neighbors that we started from Sherman Oaks Homeowners.
Marshall.
Hi, Marshall Long. I'm a land use chair.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Segoyan, membership chair. I'd like to welcome everybody. And if you're not a SOHA member, we'd love you to join us. You can go to our website, soha914.com, and click on Join SOHA. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jay Weitzler. I am secretary of the organization, and I'm the liaison for the Buckley School and the Hillside Federation.
All right, thank you, everybody on the board. So if any of you on the Zoom call, excuse me, I have to use my voice tonight. I've got terrible allergies the last couple of days. But anyway, if any of the committees like the homeless committee that Tom is chairing, if any of those are dear to your heart and you want to work on it, feel free to shoot us an email or a phone, leave a message for us on our voicemail, and we're happy to have you join our committee. So the first at bat is Erin Seinfeld. She is with Mayor Garcetti's office for a quick update. And then after that, we'll have Andy Solomon from the Neighborhood Prosecutor's Office from the City Attorney's Office. Erin, you want to unmute yourself? There you go.
Sure. Thank you, Matt. I want to be very brief, but I want to highlight a really important deadline that we need your assistance in spreading the word on. And that's that the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program will stop accepting applications on March 31st. So if you have not already applied, be sure to do so by the deadline. You can apply 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at housingiskey.com. The program provides free and financial assistance to landlords and renters who need help with unpaid or future rent or utilities owed up to March 31st, 2022. Landlords and renters are both encouraged to apply. I think that a lot of people were incredibly impacted by the pandemic and do not know that that assistance is there. So for your kids, your employees, your friends, your loved ones, please help get the word out. This is a great opportunity to be able to get up to 18 months of their rent and utilities. And if they did apply it and already got money from the city only covered up to 15 months and no utilities. So they can still apply, get 3 additional months and their utilities. So I will end it there. If you have any information, if you want to know anything, reach out. The website's housingiskey.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Erin. Andy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Solomon. I'm the neighborhood prosecutor from the City Attorney's Office. I handle a lot of the chronic issues that traditional prosecution doesn't handle. I also help direct people to the correct city resources or state resources or county resources to solve a lot of problems. I work with the senior lead officers. One notable example, actually, I can't take much credit for it. Officer Romo did a lot of work on this, but Coldwater Canyon at the 101 freeway, Van Nuys Boulevard at the 101 freeway, working with CD4 and Officer Romo, they did actually most of the work on that. But a lot of you had brought that to my attention and the crime stemming out of that. If you need to reach me, my email is Andy, A-N-D-Y, .Solomon, S-O-L-I-M-A-N, @lacity.org. Even if you're not sure if I'm the right person to contact, reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with the right person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you do great work. Emma and Steve from Assembly Member Nazarian's office.
Hi there, this is Emma Taylor. I'm District Director for Assembly Member Nazarian. I just wanted to, Aaron highlighted most of the information about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. I just wanted to highlight that our office has been helping tenants and landlords who need help about all of their applications that, yes, are due by March 31st, but we're also helping people who are stuck in the process. We're trying to get you answers from the housing department up in Sacramento, and so please contact our office. I also wanted to let you know that after 5 years of coming to SOHA on behalf of Assembly Member Nazarian, I'm transitioning out of my role, and Steve Ferguson is here tonight because he will be taking over for me as District Director for Assembly Member Nazarian. I'm not going far though, and I will be joining Council District 4, so I will still be around in Sherman Oaks plenty, so you will be seeing me still. So Steve, over to you.
Very quickly, just looking forward to working with everybody. I am, certainly new to the office, but not new to local government. I serve on the Burbank School Board and have been active in local government for over 20 years. So really looking forward as regional neighbors to working together, but also working on behalf of the Assembly Member to really advocate and to elevate the issues we're encountering in your neighborhood every day. So again, looking forward to working together as partners for the remainder of the term.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. Ryan, you're with, this is interesting. Now, usually you log on representing Nazarian. What are you doing in the position of our council person?
So I'm very excited to share with you all, but first, Matt, if you don't mind, Alex, could you go ahead and share a report from CD4?
Oh, yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. Alex is here. I am moving out of the field deputy role. I'm moving into community education coordinator. The amazing Ryan Ahari will be stepping in as field deputy for the Sherman Oaks area. As you all know, he's very hardworking, so we're very excited. Just a quick announcement, we have some volunteer opportunities to do some door knocking to some tenants, to some constituents in our district around the renter's application. And then a quick homelessness update, the location along Sylmar behind the Gelsons has been flagged for us, so our homelessness team will be going out this week and next to connect with those individuals and make sure they're connected with housing navigators and appropriate services. So this will be my last visit to SOHA as a field deputy, but moving into the community education coordinator, I will continue to work with this body, and I'm thankful to everyone here. So please re-welcome Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I wanted to say she's been an incredible asset to our Sherman Oaks community. She's worked so hard and I have very big shoes to fill. But that was the answer to Matt's question. I am very happy to be part of the CD4 team. I do represent Sherman Oaks. If anybody needs help with anything at the city level or any other office, please contact me, ryan.ahari@lacity.org. And I'm very happy to be here. So I look forward to working to improve our community. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we have the two best senior lead officers anybody could ask for on the line. Jose and Mariana, you want to say hello? Oh my goodness, look at that good-looking guy.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, everybody. I'm Officer Saldana. I cover the southern portion of Sherman Oaks, everything south of Ventura towards Mulholland, between Coldwater Canyon and Sepulveda. Right now, just the southern portion of Sherman Oaks, we're down 19% in violent crime, and we're slightly up on our property crime, 0.65%. So we're doing real good on our property and our violent crime this year. Ventura and Stern, with the assistance of Alex and Ryan, we have been working real closely with that community because of the homeless issues that we have right there at the 7-Eleven. But they did an awesome cleanup yesterday. The whole street got cleaned up. We're still working with outreach with those people out there. But Ventura and Stern is looking a little better from last time. I know We're also working on a major operation on Ventura, one of the motels, Park Motel. I've been having a lot of issues there. So we are working on that. I can't tell, I can't say too much about it, but we are working on that area.
Mariana?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Senior Lead Officer Romo, and I cover just north of Senior Lead Officer Lozano's area, the northern part of Sherman Oaks. For the crime steps in my area, we're kind of very similar. I do have high on robberies, but again, I do have the Westfield Mall. A lot of our shopliftings become Estes robbery because there is a struggle between the suspect and security or loss prevention. So that's something that I'm working with the city attorney and mall security and loss prevention officers. I wanted to bring up our collaborating efforts with CD.
Mariana, you're making a lot of sounds.
Your mic is messed up.
Hold on, let me.
Mariana, I think your mic is on the ground on your desk or something.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I know very quickly, I want to give a special thanks to CD4 LASA Family Housing for assisting us with, and CHP, our CHP partners and Caltrans with assisting the 101 in Van Nuys cleanup and the 101 in Coldwater. And especially with the community, we're not able to conduct our work without everyone's efforts. So again, thank you CD4, LASA, Family Housing, Caltrans, and our CHP partners. If you guys see any homeless individuals, please continue to contact myself. Now, Ryan from CD4, Field Deputy, and CHP and Caltrans if it's on the state property. Thank you very much again, everyone, and good evening.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you both for everything that you guys do. Okay, we have Mr. Caruso's on the line, but we're not ready to queue up him quite yet. We have John Eisen, who's one of our board members. He has, you have the mic for a couple of seconds there, John, so go ahead.
Hi, I wanted to give you a little bit of mayoral trivia. The last person to be elected mayor of Los Angeles who did not previously hold an elected office was Richard Riordan in 1993. The person he ran against was Michael Wu. It was 54 to 46%. The current mayor of Los Angeles, his first office that he held was a city council person. Who did he run against in 2001? It was Michael Wu. He won 52 to 48%. Richard Close told this story back in around 1990. Richard went on a vacation all the way across the world. He went to the state of Israel. He went to Jerusalem. And one day he went to the Western Wall and he goes up there and he looks to his side and he sees Michael Wu standing next to him. They exchanged pleasantries and went on their separate vacations.
All right.
I'm done.
You froze at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, John. That was some great trivia, and you're still frozen on the screen. So thank you, John. Okay, Mr. Caruso, you're mic'd. You're there. There you go. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. How are
Yeah.
everybody tonight?
Thank you for joining us. So you have quite a fantastic career in the city of Los Angeles, not in politics. However, you've been almost 40 years, 37 years serving the public. You were the youngest, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it still hold it. You were the youngest commissioner in the history of the city, being appointed by Mayor Tom Bradley to serve on the Department of Water and Power Commission when you were 26 years old. You've been on the police commission, you've been on other commissions as well. So you know how the city works. You're not a stranger to that.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us some fun trivia. You've got a lot of people on the phone that want to know about you and want to know what you're going to do to fix this city that we all love and that we all are here. So it's your stage. So go for it.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm literally thrilled to be here. I first want to start out and just mention that when I heard about Richard's passing, I was really devastated. I had worked with Richard over many, many years. We had become friends. I had talked to him not long before that. We had talked a number of times during COVID and about finding a safe way of getting together. And I feel terrible that that never came together because of, the pandemic conditions. But anyway, I just wanted to express my respect and gratitude for all the good work that Richard did for the city of Los Angeles and certainly the Valley and certainly, this association. And I also want to congratulate Jules for being the honorary mayor. And I think that's a great designation. And I want to be able to take some classes from Jules on how to be mayor. And so that would be fantastic for me. So I'm going to get some support from you and you can give me some tutoring and we're going to go from there.
You're welcome.
You got it. Listen, let me just tell you, in general, I love the Valley. And I know that your association is a portion of the Valley, but the Valley is where I got my start. So it is near and dear to my heart. My first real project was in the Valley. I went to school in the Valley. My kids spent most of their youth in the Valley. The Valley is the heart and soul of the city. And your association has done an amazing job over many, many years protecting your part of the Valley and making sure the standards are very high. And of course, during my tenure at DWP, I spent a lot of time in the Valley because there's very particular issues that are impacted through DWP in the Valley. And the Valley was very important to me as I ran DWP and when I ran LAPD. But let me just give you a little bit of background about who I am. So I have born and raised in the city of Los Angeles. My grandparents actually immigrated from Italy to Boyle Heights in East LA. And my grandfather was a gardener. My grandmother ruled the house. They had 3 sons. One became a priest, actually, a Franciscan priest. And my father went into business, but they were from the most humble of beginnings. They came to Los Angeles with not a dime in their pocket, and they didn't know how to speak English, but they had one thing that was much more powerful, and that was the American dream. And they wanted to make sure that their kids had an opportunity to get educated and work hard and make sure that the next generation benefited from that. So I'm the beneficiary of 2 people that really believed in Los Angeles, believed in this country, and believed in the hope that this country had. And the motivation for me of getting into this race is just that this city has fallen into a state of a crisis, in my opinion. We have millions of people, young and old, rich and poor, that have lost hope, that feel they haven't been listened to, that crime is out of control, that homelessness is rampant, and we've got terrible corruption going on in City Hall. And I'm a firm believer that everybody should get their fair share at the American dream. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've worked hard, but I've still been very fortunate. And I still remember to this day, my grandmother watching me receive a diploma from USC. And I was the first member of the family to ever graduate from college, and the tears running down her face. I spent time today in Watts. I spent time today on Skid Row. I'm going to be out in the Valley tomorrow. We have to bring the American dream back. And the only way to bring the American dream back is to allow residents of the city to actually do what they want to do, raise their family, feel safe, be able to have their business, get rid of the encampments in front of their homes, in front of their businesses, and stop spiraling crime. So let me just take these 3 things and then I'll be quiet, and I really would love to have questions. Everything I hold dear came from this city. My family was raised here, as I said, and I started my business with one employee and built it up to a fairly good-sized business and one who I think is admired nationally. I did that in this city. It was a very different time to do that. First problem, we have homelessness that is completely out of control, as you know. 44,000 people are on the streets. The living conditions are horrifying. It's beyond, literally beyond tragic. It's cruel punishment. Walking Skid Row today, now, I've driven through Skid Row. I walked it for an hour with the president of the BID in Skid Row. You have an incredible amount of businesses that are continuing to operate in the worst conditions, and you have an incredible amount of people that are living in the worst conditions. They're living in their own waste, in tents. The smell in the area, you can't even describe. I got emotional walking through it. And then on the other side, you got people down there dealing drugs. The gangs are literally without boundaries because nobody is checking it. The police are not engaged because they're not allowed to be engaged. Laws are not being enforced. It is beyond a third world country down there. So I've got a plan. We're going to build 30,000 beds in the first year. I know how to do it. If there's one thing I know how to do is to build. At the same time, we're going to ease restrictions and all the extra government regulations on building permanent housing. We're going to be very respectful of neighborhoods so that we're not putting massive housing into single family residences. But at the same time, we've got to build permanent housing. We're short of that in Los Angeles. I'm going to declare a state of emergency day one that I walk into office. As mayor, I want to be held accountable. I'm not somebody that believes in excuses. And I think our elected officials, they have perfected the art of excuses and finger pointing. And we need to get out of that business because we're all paying a dear price in our communities. You've got people living on the streets that's inhumane, and you have communities that are impacted that is absolutely wrong. So there's nothing good about what's happening. And this idea that somehow it's humane to have people living on a street in a tent, it's not humane. It's laziness and a lack of courage and a lack of will, and it's a lack of management, and it's a lack of leadership. Second problem, crime is spiking. You've got homicides up 50% since 2019, 50%. You got vehicle theft up 50%. But here's the really scary statistic. You've got arrests down 26% because the cops are not allowed to engage. The cops are demoralized. And what is our leadership given us? They've given us spiking crime. And at the same time, there's 500 less officers on the street, 500 less. So my plan is to bring in 1,500 new officers. 20 years ago, Jimmy Hahn tapped me to be the police commissioner, be the president of the police commission. I inherited a mess. The police department is under a federal consent decree after the Rodney King beating. So the federal judge was literally running the police department. Crime was spiking and officers were leaving and the academy was empty. What did I do? I brought in new leadership, removed all the old leadership. Between me and the new leadership, we reformed the department. We brought in community policing. We brought back the senior lead officers, the beat on the street to know the residents and the merchants. We reduced crime by 30%, back to 1950 levels. We reformed the department, got it away from the consent decree, and we hired 800 new officers. So that can be done. I've done it before. I'm going to do it again. We've got to bring communities back to safety where people feel comfortable going for a walk, where their families can go for a walk, where their kids can walk to school, where their kids can go to a park and not feel threatened. This is insane, the way we've been running this city. The last, corruption in City Hall. We've had 3 council members let out of their office in handcuffs by federal authorities. We've got a mayor's office that is in constant scandal and corruption charges. We got a city attorney's office that was raided by federal agents, raided. And we got a Department of Water and Power under federal investigation. If you can't keep your own house clean, how do you expect to clean up the rest of the city? The culture in that building is terrible. And you've got council members using their campaign accounts to take family vacations. That is a cultural, systemic problem. And that's why this city is in a crisis. Now, I'm used to dealing with crises. I did it at DWP and turned it around. I did it at LAPD and turned it around. And I've actually just done it at USC and turned it around. I've got the skill, I've got the know-how, I've got the leadership abilities, I've got the track record. And along the way, I built a business that has been well admired, best in class, attracting the best people. We need to have the best and the brightest people brought into City Hall to solve these problems. We need to get away from the social experiments that haven't worked. We need to deal with the homeless with humanity and care. There's no doubt we're dealing with human beings. Their lives are broken. There's drug addiction. There's mental illness. We need to give them the services they need to try to get back in life. No doubt. But we just cannot allow encampments on the street anymore. We just cannot allow rising crime anymore. People are dying. We just cannot allow corruption to be in our government. So that's what I plan on doing, plus a lot more. We need to be much more business friendly. We need to protect the sanctity of our neighborhoods. We need to keep our streets clean. We need to keep our parks clean. You know, we just need to be a more livable city. My God, we're the greatest city in the nation. And we need to give back hope for people that love this city and love this country and want their fair share of the American dream. And we need to hear them and listen and respond to their needs. So listen, I love the opportunity to talk with you. I love your part of this city. It's a jewel. And I promise you as mayor, I'm going to be here to support what you need in order to keep your area, the Sherman Oaks area, as pristine and as beautiful and as wonderful as it is. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rick. And those three things that you had commented on, I mean, based on your background, I think you can probably take care of that in the first maybe 6 months of your, so then you have 3.5 years to skate, right?
You know what? Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. I am so motivated and I'm so excited to do this job. I know it sounds crazy because I'm not looking for a career change. I've got a really comfortable life. I got a wife that I love. I got 4 kids that I love, and I got a business that I love. So I got a city that's really in pain.
All right. So Bob Anderson, who's our vice president, is going to be asking the questions.
Okay.
Don't get mad at Bob, though, because the questions he's asking are not from Bob Anderson, but they're from the audience. Some of the folks are going to be unmuted and ask the questions themselves, and some of them that aren't on the phone, he'll go ahead and ask. So go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, Rick. Thanks very much for speaking tonight. We usually don't accept anonymous questions because we like to know the people who are asking them. But I got one today, and I thought it was really pretty interesting. I didn't like all of it, but there was one interesting part. And what that person asked is that you transitioned from Republican to an independent in 2011, and then you transitioned to a Democrat this year in 2022. Could you sort of give the reasons why you did that and how, what changed that caused you to do that?
Yeah, sure. Listen, I've always been a centrist. When I was a Republican, I was a centrist. When I was an independent, I was a centrist. As a Democrat, I'm a centrist. I'm pro-jobs. I'm pro-reduction of crime. I'm pro-building business. I'm pro-family. I'm pro-living out your faith. You know, what happened, and the reason I became an independent is the Republican parties, I don't like ideology, and I support the right thing for the people that are being served by elected officials. I don't just check a box and do what a party tells me to do. So at that time, I wanted to be independent. there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last couple of years that have troubled me. I think the far left has gotten too far left. The far right has gotten too far right. We're at a really critical stage, this election coming up in November, right? And I wanted to make it very clear where I stand. You know, I stand with being fiscally conservative, but socially accepting of how people want to live their lives too. And so the Republican Party really left me. It's the old Reagan line. I didn't leave it. And I really want to reinvent the Democratic Party to go back to what it was, I think, 30 years ago, which was very much middle of the road. And that's where I stand. So I didn't want to remain independent because I did want to make a choice. And I didn't feel like I could go to the Republican Party because frankly, I'm worried about where they're heading.
Thank you. I think that's very important. I will tell you that most of the questions, not most, but a good third of them were about homelessness, which was one of the first things you addressed, and you can understand it. We have a few people who ask them. I can't give you every question, but I promoted Pastor Manning, and he has a question that he's going to ask you. Are you there, Pastor Manning?
Oh, unmute me. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Caruso, I house the homeless every day. I'm in Skid Row and all of that. And first of all, I'd like to have your email address. And secondly, I wanted to say that all of the mayoral candidates claim that they're going to solve the homelessness problem in Los Angeles. And I'm wondering what's different about your plan versus Karen Bass, Kevin DeLeon, et cetera. What's going to make you really get this done and not just be rhetoric? And can I have your email address?
Sure. My email address is what you're asking for, Pastor?
Yes.
R Caruso at caruso.com. And that comes directly to me.
Thank you.
And I look forward to meeting you and working with you. Let me tell you what the difference is. Everybody I'm running against has been in office for over a decade. Some have been in office for 2 decades. And over the last, let's just say the last 5 years, has anything gotten better? Everything's gotten worse. Crime's gotten worse. Homelessness has gotten worse. Corruption has gotten worse. You know, their plans are a lot of talk. The difference between me and everybody on that stage that I'm going to be with on the debate coming up is that I've actually gotten things done around the city. I've actually built projects. I've actually supported the inner city. I was at St. Lawrence School this morning with Operation Progress that my wife and I and my kids have supported for many, many years. I was at Para Los Niños, which I know you know on Skid Row, that I've supported and underwritten that school without headlines. I'm not looking for headlines. For the last 25 years, supported that school. I walked into that school today and I got emotional. You go to the outside of that school, you got drug dealing, you got human waste, you got crime. You know what it is, Pastor. You live with it. You walk into that school, you got beautiful little kids taking a nap, families that are walking them in there, that are just trying to keep them safe, hard-working families that are at or below the poverty line. So I know how to get things done. I've got a track record of getting things done. The people I'm running against have a track record of doing nothing. And they're legislators. They've never been executives. They've never run a budget. They've never had employees reporting to them. They've never been in charge of an enterprise. They've never been in charge of a business. And Pastor, I would ask you and anybody on this screen, who would you want to step in and run your business if you decided to go away for 4 years? And that's who you should vote for.
That's great. I'm going to continue with a couple of questions more on homelessness and then get into some other topics. Hopefully we've got Renee Weitzer on the line. Renee, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Please ask your question.
First of all, Rick, you said you're pro this. I'm pro you.
Renee, it's so good to hear your voice.
Anyhow, this is my question. Recently, Ron Galpern, our controller, came out with an audit regarding the HHH funds, which were approved in 1916. Whether all that money has been spent or not, who knows? I don't think most of the public really knows what was done with that money. As a business person, how would you deal with the $1 billion from HHH as well as money from the federal government and the state government that has been given to the city of Los Angeles to solve the homeless problem? How would you build low-income housing cheaper and faster than what they're doing today? What did they build? One apartment house? That's it. Thank you.
Renee, it's great hearing your voice. I love you. It's a great question. So everybody agreed to be taxed in the city $1.1 billion. We're supposed to have 10,000 units in 10 years. We're sitting here 6 years later. We have a little bit over 1,000 units at an average cost of $800,000 a unit. I was talking to somebody that's running a private development company doing low-income housing. They're building them at $200,000 a unit. So for every unit that the city is building, private enterprise is building 4. This is craziness. This goes to my mismanagement comment, the fact that the leadership in the city has never managed anything. They don't know how to manage it, and it's full of corruption. So the first thing I would do is stop that program and do a massive audit, because we're just wasting money. The second thing is you've got public-private partnerships, and we should be incentivizing the private firms to go out and build in the right places and build quickly. There's no shortage of money. There's a shortage of management. There's a shortage of skill. This election is about skill set, the skill set that you need to turn the city around. So HHH is the poster child for what's happening throughout this city. Lack of management, lack of accountability, finger pointing, and it's got to stop.
Thank you. The next question's from Paige Austin. Paige is the editor of the Sherman Oaks Patch. And let's hope Paige is on there. Are you there, Paige? Doesn't seem to be. So I will read her question. It's that former Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa recently told the LA Times that you come from a part of town where they don't know about people who suffer. They don't know about people who go hungry. They don't have any idea about what it is to struggle. In light of that statement, she's asking you to imagine a single mom of 2 who makes $50,000 a year after paying her family's medical, life, all that insurance. Her paycheck is almost nothing that comes home, and rents are horribly high. And will she qualify for CalFresh food assistance, which she probably won't? So what would you do as mayor to improve her family's quality of life?
Well, first of all, let me be clear. I think that's a grotesque statement to damn a whole part of the city, that a whole part of the city doesn't care or understand what the plight of other people are in the city. I just don't believe that to be true. Second of all, I go back to my experience and the experience with my wife and my kids of what we've done in the inner city. I was with families today that we support. We pay for their children's education from 3rd grade all the way through college. They are below the poverty line. They would love to make $50,000. They're not making anywhere close to that. And they're living in Nickerson Gardens and Imperial Gardens in the midst of crime and gangs. We support them with food. We support them with education, and we support them with medical assistance. And these kids are doing amazing things. I would love to take you down there. We're with one, Jennifer Alvarado. She graduated high school from St. Mary's, lived at Nickerson Gardens in the worst crime area of the city, went on to Boston College under a full scholarship, now has a full scholarship at USC in a master's program, and she's planning on coming back to her community to help her community. I was sitting next to a young lady that's on her way to college, and she's going to be a social worker. She's going to college to get her degree. That's what you do. You give them support, you give them education, and you help them live their life. You get crime away from them so that they can be productive in their work. These families are telling me a young Black dad was there with 2 beautiful daughters that he's scared to let his kids go outside. They live in Imperial Gardens because of the crime. So I understand the plight of people. I live with it every day, and we actually support them and we work with them and we're making them a better life. As mayor, I can expand that 10,000-fold by doing more partnerships and supporting the people in Los Angeles that need the help. This is the government's #1 job. Keep you safe. The #2 job is make your life livable. We're failing right now on both accounts.
That's great. Thank you. A little bit different topic, and that's the housing element and some of the rezoning things going on in LA. And for that, we're going to have our board member, Maria Calvin, ask her question.
Good evening, Mr. Caruso. Thank you for being here tonight. My question is, the housing element being adopted by LA will rezone a good many of our neighborhoods into higher density multifamily areas. In Sherman Oaks, a big portion of our single family neighborhoods from Sepulveda to Coldwater, Burbank to Valley Vista have been targeted for greater density. With so many underutilized commercial streets, perfect for mixed use housing, would you protect our low density neighborhoods citywide from becoming a thing of the past? And if so, how would you do that with an increasingly pro-density city council and planning department that ignore community input?
Great question, Maria. 1,000% yes. And let me explain it. We have to protect our neighborhoods and we have to protect single family homes. We have to protect the sidewalks, the livability, the sense of community, the ability to actually have space and air and view and sky that all of us need just from a mental health standpoint, right? The front lawns are magical. The backyards are magical. And you don't want to have shade and shadow on your backyard or your front lawn. You know, you don't want to feel like you're living in a tunnel. There's more than enough area, to your point, to have mixed use housing that actually adds to the value of the neighborhood rather than detracting from it. Now, how would I do that? The mayor has the power of veto, and I will veto that. Second of all, the head of planning, the head of housing, all reports to the mayor directly. And the first thing I'm going to do when I'm in office is bring the head of every department in. I'm going to say within 30 days, I want you to give me your plan on operating your department going forward. I'm going to review those plans. And if they're inconsistent with quality of life, I'm going to reject them. And if the people that are in those positions as general managers don't know how to serve their community, then I'm going to replace them. But listen, nobody wants to live in a single family home with a building looming over it. It's just not quality of life. And I am all about quality of life. And that's been the foundation fundamentally of our city. We got to protect that. You could still build housing in the right places.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great. Another question about planning, and that is from our board member, Tom Glick.
Hold on. Yes, hi, good evening.
Hi.
Mr. Caruso. Behind me, first, you haven't taken credit for your most important accomplishment, bringing Lincoln Riley to USC, and we're going to have full stadiums coming up in a national championship in 2 years, so fight on.
You got, I like your background.
Oh yeah, thank you. Tried and true Trojan. My question is similar to Maria's in the sense that people, and I'm talking about developers, community leaders, small businesses, residents, are extremely frustrated with the city development process, planning, land use, building processes, and lay blame and on the current mayor and the inability of GMs and directors to be held accountable for a planning process and a building process that, as far as many is concerned, is broken to a place where it can't be repaired. So my question to you is, how would you come in and improve these processes, building and safety, planning, engineering, housing department, and more? Would you merge the 4 departments? Would you advocate changing civil service to hold not only the managers accountable, but the staff accountable?
Yeah.
When it takes 6 months for a building on Ventura Boulevard to change out their high-rise sign, and it costs the developer $10,000 a month because the tenant that wants the new high-rise sign is waiting for it, there's something wrong with that.
Hey, Tom, you're preaching to the choir. I deal with it every day. I built a business that's had to deal with the city. And over the last 30 years, it just continues to get worse and worse and worse. We made a decision as a company. I almost hate to admit it. This is 2-3 years ago, before COVID. We're not building any more projects in the city of Los Angeles. It's too overregulated. It increased costs too much, too discretionary. Every district has different rules, right? And you've got to just peel back the onion. First of all, there should be zoning as a matter of right in the right areas. If you're in a transit area where you've got a transit stop, you want to have more density at a transit stop, and then you want to have less density like we're talking about in residential R1. Should be as of right. You shouldn't need to go through a lot of process. And you shouldn't have to go through, it's not even 4 departments. You end up going through about 8 departments in order to pull a permit. We just opened up a restaurant in Pacific Palisades, the last space. The building was already built. All we needed was the permit for the improvements on the inside. The use was already approved. It took 6 months, and we've got some clout. So if you're a small business, 90% of the businesses in Los Angeles are small businesses. What happens? You go out of business. That's what happens. And we just can't allow it anymore. But every one of those department heads reports to the mayor. And they're going to be held accountable. I promise you. And I'm going to be a very active, engaged mayor. If there's somebody that's got a problem with a sign on their building, I want to know about it and we'll fix it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to ask Jack Humphreville to speak. And Jack, are you there?
I am. Thank you very much. Rick, this is Jack Humphreyville. I don't live in the Valley, but I voted for succession a long time ago. Wish it happened. I'd like to know what you're going to do about campaign finance reform, especially as it relates to developers. Thank you.
Well, I'm not taking any money from developers, corporations, lobbyists. I'm just taking money from normal residents and people, voters in the city. So listen, it's a problem. It's an absolute problem. And that's the source of the corruption we have in City Hall. And part of the source of the corruption we have in City Hall, quite frankly, is because everything is so discretionary. So, people get campaign funding because they want their projects approved. And it's one of the reasons we decided we're not going to be there anymore. I think what you should do is everybody, I would just urge to go to carusocan.com. It's my website. It's got a whole corruption platform there. It's very detailed on homelessness, on the policies, very detailed on corruption, very detailed on crime. I'm actually the only candidate that has everything detailed out very early on. And I've got zero tolerance for corruption in City Hall. I have zero tolerance for taking advantage of campaign finance. So a lot of that has to get fixed at the state, much more than it does at the city level, but it is a problem.
Hey, Bob, can I do a follow-up to that question?
Absolutely, Matt.
So Rick, the municipal labor unions are very, very powerful in this city. Some of the things that you are talking about are very radical when it comes to the municipal labor unions, the folks that really are, have a big vote. And we've seen what has happened in past campaigns when they get behind somebody or against somebody who they don't like the word that the talk that you're talking. How are you going to address that? Because they're going to come out at, your campaign, if this message is out there, they're going to come after you in a big way as far as spending. How are you going to address that?
Well, fortunately, I can finance my own election if I choose to. And I'm going to I'm going to put the resources behind this that need to be put behind it in addition to doing fundraising. So the unions don't scare me from that standpoint. I'm a unique candidate. I'm on a mission here. And I will tell you though, one of the largest unions in the city has already endorsed me, the Police Protection League. The other thing I would tell you, I've met with the unions. What the unions want more than anything, and I've dealt with the unions over my career, they want to create jobs. They want more members. And if there's anybody that's going to create jobs that's running for office, it's going to be me. I've created tens of thousands of union jobs during the 30 years of running my business. And they know that. And I've got a great relationship with the unions. Now, they may decide at the end of the day, if it's me and Karen Bass, that they need to get behind Karen Bass. I don't know. You know, Karen Bass does not give them a path to a lot of new jobs in the city. So I'm pretty optimistic that the unions this time around are not going to be the problem. I think the problem in City Hall is much more about elected officials always worried about where their next job is. And so they make decisions through the lens of what's politically correct. So I can now get elected to the county, and then I can get elected to the assembly, and then I can come back to the city council. Look at who's running. Everybody who's running has never signed the front of a paycheck. They've only signed the back. How can you make decisions that impact everybody who works for a living when you've actually never had to work for a living? And I'll just say one other thing, because I get high on my horse on this. My company was in the center of COVID, the pandemic. Everything got shut down. Hotel, retail, restaurants, right? Have a ton of small businesses. We protected everybody. I told the team, the mission is we're all going to get across this bridge together. We're going to support the small businesses. We didn't lose one small business. I have hundreds of retailers. There are people that lost their businesses. There was people that we all know that could not afford to put food on the table, and obviously people who died and really struggled. The elected officials never missed a paycheck. They never missed their staff. They never had their city car taken away from them. They just don't know reality. So when somebody accuses me of being disconnected because I'm successful, I'm sorry. They're disconnected because they've never had to deal with the reality that everybody in this world had to deal with when COVID hit.
Okay, I know we've got you just another 5 minutes or 3 minutes.
Okay.
Commitment. So Bob, do you have one more question before we let Mr. Caruso go?
I do, and it's a very important question because it's mine. And, Metro, I'm talking about the Sepulveda Transit Corridor project from the valley to the west side. I'm guessing you know a little about it. I'll tell you, I've been following it for 5 years, and it's in a shameful state. This is the most important transit project in the county, and Metro has been withholding all this information from the public. They hold these public meetings, they tell you nothing, and then they act on it, and they say, well, we told you everything, and they didn't. And there's misinformation just all over the place, and Metro won't refute it. So, you know, they've got 4 of their 6 alternatives are unaffordable with their budget. 2 of them by twice as much as they've got, maybe 2.5, and they don't want to admit that. They've got one of them that we consider absolutely idiotic that runs an elevated train above ground in the valley and screws us into the ground for 5 miles. So it ruins neighborhoods, ruins people's lives and everything else.
Bob, what is your question?
Okay, we work really closely with Bel Air. The question is, as mayor and a board member, what would you do to make Metro more transparent and more responsible?
Well, listen, Bob, I have friends in the valley and I have friends in Bel Air. I've never seen people so angry and upset in my life. And Metro, what they're really good at is pissing people off and not sharing information and actually not even being thoughtful. They're just not even thoughtful. They're living on another planet on some of the stuff that they're proposing. So here again, you've got this sort of independent government agency with zero accountability and zero transparency. As mayor, I get on that board. And I'm going to do what I did to Metro, just like I did at LAPD and DWP and USC. We're going to hold people accountable. We're going to make sure there's transparency. And we're actually going to do things that are in the best interest of the residents and not do things just in the best interest of some enterprise that is disconnected from the residents. It's insanity. I won't be a part of it. I'm going to change it. I know it's a heavy lift because they're so institutionalized, but I don't blame you for being upset. I don't blame the people in Bel Air for being upset. Talking with friends in Bel Air, they're talking about this massive tunnel under everybody's home and nothing makes sense. So I don't have the answer to it other than I'm going to dig into it. And I promise you, I'm going to be a sympathetic ear. And nobody wants to have an elevated railway going by their home. We're not living in Disneyland where you want the monorail going down your home.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Caruso, thank you very much for your time. We will see you at the mayoral debate on May 18th. That should be on your calendar. If it's not yet, then
I don't know of it, but I'll let my team know about it.
Okay. Well, Lex in your office knows about it.
Okay.
Okay, and we will have all the mayoral candidates on, and we look forward to seeing you then. And good luck with your race.
You guys are wonderful. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
Thanks for joining
Thank
us
you.
and thanks for caring about our quality of life.
So before everybody else jumps off and our participants jump off, thank you very much, Mr. Caruso. Our next meeting, which is our meetings are always the third Wednesday of every month. We have the last candidate running for mayor, which is Mike Fuhr. He's on April 20th. And then we have the mayoral candidates with all the main mayoral candidates on May 18th. It's the third Wednesday at 7:15. We'll see you all then. Thank you very much.
And thank you from the honorary mayor.
There you go. You're my tutor. Coming over for.
You're on. Okay.
All right. I'll bring the bottle of wine.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
You too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Caruso. Have a great night. Fight on.
Fight on.